Welcome fans of flip clocks. This is it, the neon glow bulb that many people ask, how do you replace this or where do you get one? And I decided I wanted to replace the whole assembly because otherwise you're going to have to splice into that mess. So why not replace the whole thing? Well, we found out that it's hard to find that material. This stuff was over-engineered and you can't find this at Walmart. So from several sources, we got the materials to make these units, and I'm going to show you how I did it. Well, first, you got to get the neon glow bulbs, and there's various suppliers from these. They're called NE-2, NE-2H, or C2A, and whatever bulb you get is going to have a certain rating, and in this case, it calls for a 30K ohm, 1/4 watt resistor that I got off of eBay. The wires, I decided to go a little higher tech than what was original. So these are rated up to 200 degrees Celsius and 600 volts. It's Teflon coated wire. Very high grade stuff. So here is it's a fiberglass sleeving, very heat resistant, up to 220 degrees Fahrenheit, 4,000 volts, very flexible. This is going to go over top of the resistor. Now here's another one it's a clear tubing that's going to go over a small lead, and this is the bigger tubing that's going to go over the whole assembly. Now this stuff is called Dayflex D105. It's up to 105 degrees Celsius, resists all kinds of stuff, clings, protects, and snakes well. Now this is a little more modern stuff. You'll see why I decided to use heat shrink tubing, and we'll talk about why I didn't just use that for the whole thing. And it's high rated too, 600 volts and up to 125 degrees. So the whole thing is safe and over-engineered, hopefully. Now this is an old one, and from these old ones I kind of took some measures, and I wanted to get very similar to the original. So in this case, we'll cut the first thing down to about 3/4 of an inch, and then again approximately 3/8 of an inch. For our resistor, both ends will need to be cut down to right about 5/8 of an inch. And it'll all fall into place here in a moment. You'll see why the measures are what they are. So we heat up the wires real good so that they'll take the solder well. It's a rosin core solder. That's what that smoke is. And I got to be a perfectionist here, so there we go. That's a nice solder job there. The next, we got to get our wires prepared, and I'm going to give a generous lead on these, about 10 inches. And they're 24 gauge wires, so we'll strip them down, and you'll find that they're silver plated, 19 strands, silver plated copper. It's good stuff, and it's got the PTFE covering, which you'll see doesn't shrink back when I'm soldering. That is a high resistance to temperature, really good stuff, and easy to work with because of that. And this is our second lead. And you'll see that I used the darker color wire for the lead that goes to the resistor. That's not that important for your applications to enter your clock, but it's going to help me assemble them. And you'll know, just for whatever purpose, which one has the resistor on it. So we'll give a good, generous 3 inches of tubing, maybe a little more, for the outer cover. I've already cut the inner little one there. And this is the fiberglass that's going to go over top of the resistor, and I'm going about a 1/2 inch or so after the end of the lead there. You'll see that it's got a white coating on it. That's just kind of like a powder. I think it's to help it not stick to itself on a roll. That wipes off in the process of putting it together. And this is my shrink wrap, and I'm going to show you why I decided to go with that, and it's for safety. So here's our assembly. And some may ask, why don't you just use heat shrink anyway? And its flexibility. You see this stuff that I've got here is really highly flexible, and if you've worked with this stuff before, if you get multiple layers of the shrink wrap, it's not flexible. And it's gets very stiff. So if you look here, these two leads, those are the points that could actually touch and short out. So if I put this right here, there's no chance of any short out. So I'm going to cut it to length there, so it goes between the resistor and the bulb, and the resistor will hold that there from sliding. So we'll shrink it down, and what you'll see is I'm using the blue part of the flame. I found that the temperature's not as great there, and it's less likely to catch it on fire when you're working on it or overheating it. And that's just a butane lighter, that's all it is. And there we go. So nothing could touch. Even right now, nothing could touch. But we're not going to leave it at that. We're going to over-engineer it. So here is the small tube, and of course, because I know which line it goes on, because of the way color coding I'm using, fits right over there, about 1/4 of an inch after the end of the lead, and that's the fiberglass tubing. It's a vinyl coated fiberglass, and it goes right over that there. Butts right up, both of them butt right up against the bulb. We'll take our clear outer tubing. We'll trim these the back end leads up here in a moment. And it does take a little bit of kind of configuring here to get this all together. It's a tight fit, as it should be, because we want it to be held in place, all the sleeving and whatnot. I wouldn't recommend, if you get one of these from me, I wouldn't recommend taking it apart. It's hard to get back together. And there's no reason for it. Okay, there it goes up onto the bulb base, just as in the original. That'll hold it in place. And completely safe, as you know, because it's high rated for temperature. At this point, I'll trim my leads. Just double checking, make sure everything's in good shape. That's how it bends to go in most clocks. That's about the bend you'll need. And very flexible. So I've stripped the end of the wire there. I'm going to go ahead and tin the leads for you. If you decide to get one, you can always cut that to size and do it whatever you need to, but that's it. That's the complete unit. We'll have these up on for sale at eBay, or you can come to flipclockfans.com and see how you might be able to get one if you're a member.
When you get the time, come visit us at flipclockfans.com.